Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Hidden Horsepower presented by Total Seal Piston Rings. I'm Joe Costello along with Lake Speed Jr. You've gotten used to all these great episodes of Hidden Horsepower. Some are audio only, some are on the phone, some are out PRI. We've got some great episodes coming up. And it's so exciting when the young ones leave the nest, right? They leave the nest and they go off. I find out that this guy is off doing Hidden Horsepower episodes in NASCAR country, unbeknownst to me, but we have got an episode that is so exciting. Lake, tell us.
Also, for the Engine Performance Expo that just happened, we were working on a segment for the Engine Builder Hall of Fame. So Holman Moody is a name that a lot of people would know from NASCAR history.
Yeah, if they like, racing. They might have heard of it.
Right, because it was more than just NASCAR.
Yes.
Holman Moody built the cars and the engines that won Le Mans, the Ford versus Ferrari. Yeah, they're part of that deal too. Well, one of the key guys that was part of that whole thing is a guy named Waddell Wilson. Kind of a legendary NASCAR engine builder, crew chief, everything kind of guy.
Daytona 500 winning crew chief, championship winning engine builder, and you're hanging out with this guy?
Yeah, so because he worked at Holman Moody. And so we had the chance to just go beyond just the Engine Builder Hall of Fame interview. So we did a little Hidden Horsepower episode that you get to watch right now. Hello and welcome to Hidden Horsepower. This is a very special episode. No Joe Costello this time, but that's because we have the legendary Waddell Wilson. Now, you probably don't recognize this, but as my dad was coming up in NASCAR, I was only a little kid. But you were one of my heroes, right? I haven't said nothing to you so far about this because I just knew that 28 car was the fastest thing out there. And you were, I guess from your generation, right, was a different thing. Like you said before when we were talking about your time at Holman Moody, you guys worked in the shop. You said, 8 in the morning to 10 at night?
Right.
And then you went to the racetrack on the weekend. And you changed tires and jack cars and all that. And that's what I remember is that you're from that era of NASCAR where you did everything. You built the engines, you were the crew chief, and you changed tires. Now, if I'm wrong on this, tell me. You were the engine builder, the crew chief, and the pit crew guy, and won the Daytona 500? Am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's why he's on Hidden Horsepower. This is insane. So, I mean, that's just so different than today where everything is specialized. Like there's literally a guy, 10 years ago that was the valve spring guys. All you did was check valve springs.
Oh, yeah.
And
that'd drive me crazy.
So, tell me the story. How did you go from, where were you from?
Mountains of North Carolina, Mitchell County.
You went from Mitchell County to being engine builder, crew chief, pit crew winner of the Daytona 500. How do you get there?
A lot of hard work.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, well, it was something that it was a challenge. And if you want a challenge and you love that, getting racing, because that's a challenge. And the big thing about it, I remember most of all, John Holman would come to me and he said, let me tell you something, Waddell. If you get caught cheating, I'll fire you. And he told me that 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
When he put that finger in my chest. And he said, you're good enough to win without cheating. Well, that was the best thing I was ever told, because I didn't want to cheat anyway. I didn't want to look on my shoulder. But they put me in the engine room when I went to work there. And there was another story with that, but we'll not get into that. But anyway, they had me build engines, and then they come to me and said, we need an extra man on Fireball's car, pit crew. So I said, okay, I'll do that too. I was very athletic in high school. So anyway, I was on his car, and then I remember being at Daytona in '63, the summer race, and I remember he was the only man that ever hit me on pit road. And he come to me before the race, and he said, we was sitting on pit wall, they had no place to hide back then.
Right.
And he said, now Waddell, wherever you go with that signboard, because then we didn't have radio, and you go signboard, chalkboard. he said, I'm gonna follow you. I said, okay. So he told me that 3 or 4 times. So the last pit stop, I remember coming down pit road, there wasn't no pit road speed. There wasn't no box that you had to stop in or any of that. But he got a pit away. I said, ain't no way you can stop that thing. No, them drum brakes. So anyway, I said, well, I can't go right, I can't go left because he's gonna follow me. And I remember I jumped straight up. He run up under me and I landed back on the windshield. He never said a word about it, but he ended up winning the race that day.
Who was it driving?
Fireball Roberts.
Fireball.
But then Lorenzen run second to him. They had both company cars, which that was pretty usual for the two of them to run together and one win to the other. But it went on from there, in that fall, or that, after the season's over, here come Lorenzen and Moody, and they wanted to be the jack man on Lorenzen's car. I think, okay, I've never jacked a car, so there's several guys in the shop heard about it, and they wanted to try out for it too. So they set up a place to try it out. So anyway, we go over and do it, and like I said, I never jacked before. But anyway, we done it. There's 7 or 8 of us trying out for it. So I remember I ended up being the quickest, and the guy said, "Oh, you didn't do it right." Moody said, "Well, let's do it again." Well, I had a little feel for it then. I was a lot quicker the next time, so they just turned around and went after those.
And that was with the floor jack. That wasn't some
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of like, aluminum race jack.
13 pumps to get it up, and yeah, that was, I don't know how much them things weighed, but they
That
were very
much.
heavy.
Yeah.
But anyway, that went on, and but then I was building engines for Lorenzen, and then here comes Daytona in '67, and Holman come to me and he says, Mario had said he don't have horsepower that Lorenzen has. Said, you got to build his engine. Okay, so I built both their engines, and I remember it was several years back. Mario come to me and said, "Let me tell you the rest of that story." He said, "I went to, when I drove the tractor trailer to Daytona up with the engines in it, and all the rest of the stuff we needed." So anyway, I told Lorenzen his engine number and Mario his. So Mario goes to get his engine, and boys, there 2 of them get them out. I never did know who it was. But they said, "Well, you don't want this engine, you want this, don't you?" He said, "Nope, that's the engine I'm getting." And then Mario overpowered him and took the engine. He said, "Put that thing in a race car." And he said, the first lap around the racetrack, I picked up 400 RPM. He said, "I knew I had him covered then." So
That was Mario Andretti.
Mario, yeah.
Yeah, just Mario Andretti. Yeah.
The 2 of them, Lorenzen and Mario, they went back and forth all day long, and they ended up lapping the field and running up. Mario won, and then Lorenzen run second. And them boys on the Lorenzen picture said, "Oh, you give him a better engine."
You built both of them, though.
Yeah, you couldn't never win.
No, of course not. That's the way it goes. So, when I first saw you, that must have been early '80s when you were with Cale Yarborough, the 28 Hardy's car.
Right?
I remember him qualifying at 200 at Daytona and
Flipping the race car.
flipping the race car. Now there's a story about that, right?
Well, there's a lot of stories before I even get to that.
Okay, there's 20 years in there, right? So so we'll hold that for later. So what comes after the Holman Moody days and all that?
I was there from 63 to the end of 72, I mean. Anyway, after Lorenzen, he got out, and then here come Pearson and Holman Moody and Ford Motor Company wanted to run for the championship with us. So, in '68 and '69, I built engines, brand new engine for every race, and we wanted to run 100 races in them 2 years. I built a brand new engine for every race. I was always there taking care of the car, the engines, and kept them tuned. And we won the championship in '68 and '69 with Pearson out of Holman Moody.
Because when did Ford pull out? That was kind of the end of Holman Moody, right?
Well,
when Ford pulled out, right?
They pulled out at the end of starting of '69 when they pulled out.
Okay.
They pulled out in '69.
So they actually continued on a little bit past that. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like I said, Pearson left, and then whenever he left at the end of '69, '70, and then '71, Bobby Allison came in and drove the race car. and he ended up winning. I don't know how many. I remember we won both Charlotte races. We won both Michigan races. You know,
Horsepower tracks.
It was amazing how many races we won that year. And then Holman shut the race team down. And then in '72, Glenn Wood came to me and wanted to know if I'd build engines for him. So I built engines for Wood's brother in '72. And to start with, it was AJ, which he won Ontario, won Daytona. And then Glenn come to me and said, "What about Pearson?" I said, "You put Pearson in that race car, you're going to win a bunch of races. You know, he is good." And so anyway, Pearson come along, and they continued. Then at the end of '72, I left and went worked for LG DeWitt.
Okay.
And Benny Parsons. And that was interesting. We won the championship in '73, I think it was. We won the championship out of and then the biggest thing is that I still can't believe happened. And we was getting ready to go to Daytona in '75, and we were at Riverside, and Benny come to me with a set of pistons, and he said, "You know, look at these." He said, "Guys," he said, "these will be your Daytona 500 winners right here." And I looked up the pistons, and I said, "Benny, these are drag race pistons. They're made for quarter miles. I know 500 miles." So anyway, he said, "Oh, it'll work." The guy swore he would. I said, "Okay, I'll build it." And I said, "What are we going to do for the second engine?" He said, "Well, that's all we can afford to build parts for one engine." So the year before us, whenever we had downsized, and the aftermarket hadn't caught up with the good parts and pieces, so we had to use
Going from the big block to the small block.
No, this is that's whenever they downsized to the small block.
Yeah.
And it's 366 inches, then they went to 358, and in that same year. So getting ready for the '75 Daytona 500, and whenever they couldn't build it that one, I built it, and then I went through all them old bolted up parts and got enough pieces together to build an engine, just make a noise about all it's going to be.
Well, my memory of all that time was those small blocks back in those early days. They were hand grenades. It's like to go to Daytona with one part, with one engine. Some of them used parts is like basically you don't have a lot of expectation.
None, really. I mean, I remember finally got enough parts out of those old used parts, and put that thing together. And like I said, I wouldn't give you $200 for it. So anyway, we go down there, and Benny said, "Well, let's put the new engine in and go with it and run a couple of laps, and then we'll take it out and put the old engine in that you built." I said, "Okay." Before the 2 laps up, that thing blowed up, that new engine. So now we got this old slave engine. And we practiced, we qualified, and we ended up 32nd, I think, starting the race. We come down halfway and we're still running, which was my surprise. And then it gets next to the end, and Pearson's leading the race, and then he ends up, something happened to him. Now we're leading the race, and I'm thinking, well, dang, that thing, I had no idea that it was going to even make 400 miles, let alone 500. And now what crank did I put in that thing? That, did it, was it a 366 or a 357? 356. But anyway, he ends up winning the race. LG DeWitt was so excited he couldn't even enjoy it. He was way beyond his wildest imagination. Benny's, I thought he was going to squeeze my insides out of him. But anyway, and all I could think about, what size is that?
Yeah, I hope it's 358 or smaller.
So anyway, I don't even want to go to tear down, because I know we had to take a hit off of it. And finally I said, well, I'll go because they paid me. And I went to tear down, took it apart, and checked the board's oak, and thank goodness it was legal, but I never believed it would. But that's one in the place to win the Daytona 500 in that kind of condition is unbelievable. Ended up 7 times winning with the engine that won the Daytona 500, but that was the top of the hill.
That's crazy.
So anyway, I left. We'd already won the championship with Benny, and then the Daytona 500, and then Harry Ranier come, and he wanted me to go to work with him, so I took a job with him and just build engines. And then
was Ranier in Charlotte? Where were they based?
Our shop was out to the racetrack, Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Okay.
In the back of the Goodyear building.
Oh, okay.
We had that, the shop was there. That's where we started. Then we end up down in Charlotte on 12th Street. But anyway, that was an interesting time. We had Lenny Pond, and in 60, well, it's sad, I forget what year, but we won Talladega with Lenny Pond. And then in 79, you know, that's whenever Buddy Baker come to drive a race car.
Yes.
And our engineer come to him and he said, you're going to be the crew chief and the engine builder. You and the gentleman, you're going to have the whole show now. I think, dang, I don't want to be no crew chief and all that. And I'm thinking, well, before I'd say no to it, I said, well, I won't have to argue with nobody what I want to do.
That's true.
So, you know, I was always arguing with crew chiefs about what gear to put in the car and all this, and how much tape to put on it. And I said, well, I'll just have myself to argue with. So anyway, it worked out okay, because the first race we went to was the old Texas Motor Speedway, and we ended up sitting on the pole. Then the next race was Michigan, and we won Michigan. And then getting ready for the Daytona 500 in 1980, that was whenever the season ended, there was only 3 of us in the shop left. And I remember working through the holidays, and everything I knew about a race car that I'd learned through the years at Home and Moody and all the drivers I'd worked with, I said, well, we've got all winter, we want to make that thing what I wanted. But we didn't have no body man, so I took it out to a guy that used to work with Home and Moody, and I pulled strings down the side of the car, and you know, this is what I'm looking for. But I said, that's when we had the long tempers back then. Mm-hmm. I said, I want that temper to fit like a glove. So
that was one of those big body Monte Carlos, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
This is an Oldsmobile.
Oldsmobile, that's right. Oldsmobile, yeah.
Yeah, this was '88 Oldsmobile. Anyway, we got that thing. I'd go over with him and look at it at lunchtime, and I said, no, that ain't what I want. Cut it off and fix it. And I'd pull the strings down in and show him exactly what I wanted. And finally, he got it finished, you know, after I don't know how many times he took it apart. So I took it to the shop, and the funny thing about it, later I got a big bill for that race car. Wow. So anyway.
All those changes and revisions.
This will get me in trouble. So anyway, we show up at Daytona with it, and I remember the car was fast. It was extremely fast from what I thought. But anyway, Sunday morning, I remember Dick Beatty was over the garage, and he paid me to come to the garage office. So I go in the office, and he runs everybody out, and he said, sit down over here. He said, I'm going to tell you something, ain't nobody here wants to run against that race car today. I said, Dick, ain't nothing wrong with that race car. He said, yeah, I know. I could tell when they put the cover on it at nighttime and mark it, and you could see where they had the cover off of it. So they was going over it. He said, I wish everybody here would go through inspection where you can see just how legal that car is. And I'm thinking, if I don't want them to see, you know, it's something that I found out with aerodynamics, it made it work. Because whenever it made that pull the front of the car down, and that hurt the cowl pressure.
Mm.
So, you know, and if you made the template fit it, you know, pull the front of it up, and then the cowl pressure went up extremely fast.
Okay.
So I just like having a mini blower on it, really.
Okay.
You know, but anyway, during the race.
So the hood angle and everything was what was influencing the cowl pressure.
Oh yeah.
And you'd figure that out back then.
I didn't understand why other people did. You know, but you know, when so many times I'd been to Daytona and Talladega working on all these different things. Mm-hmm. You know, through the 4 days with Home and Moody. So anyway, you know, the car running like I thought it would end, and we led most of the race, you know, that day. Ended up winning the race, and we got in victory lane, and they hired me there, and I was staying there together, and I had that big bill that bugged me all week about that race car. He said, well, you boys just set a brand new record for the fastest 500 miles, and also for the money, $103,000. I said, no, you owe a bunch of money for that race car like that. So anyway, it was over.
That camshaft is still in Scooter's brother's office, because the 200-mile fastest race camshaft.
Yeah, he wanted that.
Yeah, that camshaft's still in his office. I remember I've been seeing that for years.
Yeah, well, them guys that, you know, comp cams, they really worked with me and helped me. There was a lot of success deserved to those guys.
Yeah.
Because they really helped me.
So it worked out to be able to have that big bill to be able to pay for that race car.
Yeah. But anyway, you know, we had won Talladega with buddies, you know, besides Daytona 500, won Michigan with him. You know, ended up winning Michigan 9 times.
Wow.
That was a good racetrack. But I love fast racetracks and where it took horsepower. And but you know, the horsepower and aerodynamics, they work together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, where do we want to go from here?
Well, well, that's just interesting. Is that I feel like when my dad first got into NASCAR in '80, I remember the crew chiefs and stuff saying like aerodynamics didn't matter. That these cars are big bricks and they just pack full of air and they go. And I'd always been into airplanes and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, airplanes, that's like aerodynamics is everything.
Say that.
Right? And I'm like, I remember when the Monte Carlo came out and the '83 Monte Carlo, and it's like that nose was around. It's like, well, that's got to be better than that dumb old Pontiac over there where it's a brick in the front.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because those guys acted like it was nothing, and you're saying like, oh no, it was something. Of course, they weren't winning races than you were, so.
There's 3 things that makes a race car go fast, especially at Daytona and Talladega. And that's horsepower naturally, but aerodynamics and rolling resistance. I worked on all of them. You know, a lot of people never worked on rolling resistance, but there's a lot involved in that, you know, through the drivetrain, you know,
Like
rear ends.
pinion angles and everything, it can be mounted up or not.
You know, it all had to work together.
Right.
And, you know, that's why that car at Daytona, you know, in '80, the record still stands today for the fastest 500 miles run at Daytona or any place. But that was one great time we had down there. And then Buddy went away, and then Benny Parson came in '82, I think. Yeah, '82. And we was at Talladega, and that was the first time anybody broke 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We qualified over 200. Nobody else did that day. But anyway, I didn't think nothing about it. We were just on the pole. You go back to John Holman Moody. He always thought we were supposed to sit on every pole, lead every lap, win
Every race.
That was his motto. So, you know, it's just another pole we got. But anyway, it was something to break 200 because I know some of the guys wanted some passes. So I had to go to the office outside the racetrack. And I walked in there, and I mean, they were jumping up and down and said, the phones ain't quit ringing for tickets. People wanted to come to Talladega because of the magic number 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So anyway, we didn't end up winning the race. The car was very fast. Anyway, we didn't win. So then next year was Cale Yarborough. He come on. And so we had the Monte Carlo then. And I'm thinking, well, you know, we were the first one to break the 200 mile an hour barrier at Talladega. I want to be the first one to do it at Daytona. So I remember being in the wind tunnel at GM, and they had the numbers on what the drag number was. And they said, what horsepower you got? And I told them, they said, this car will run 203 miles an hour at Daytona. Okay. So we get to Daytona, and I never worked with Cale before. And he's out there running 45, 70s, and 80s, and 45 flat with 200 miles an hour. And what didn't matter with this race car. If I was using Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker, and people like that, you know, first couple of 3 laps, you knew what you had. But Cale was sandbagging. And the day before we qualified, he passed in the car. He said, well, ain't nothing wrong with this race car. Don't mess with it. He said, I ain't never been in nothing this fast. I think it ain't going very fast. But anyway, like I said, he was sandbagging. So we go to qualifying, and back then you could put the spoiler wherever you want.
Right.
And there was a notch back car, that Monte Carlo was, so you might as well throw the
Spoiler off.
It had a lift anyway in the back, in the wind tunnel. So anyway, I bend it down to 20 degrees, and he bends it even more when he comes out there to get in to qualify. So first lap he run at 44.70 something. It was well over 200 miles an hour. And they was timing it in the tower, you know, intervals of the racetrack. And anyway, that guy that was timing it, he came to me later and told me about it all. He said, do you think them boys, you think you're jumping up and down about this? I said, he's on the clip now at 203. But then when he went into turn 3, you know, she decided to fly with him. So
Yep.
she took off like an airplane.
That's a famous photograph, right? That thing upside down, and
Yeah, but anyway,
but y'all still won the 500 that year.
well, anyway, we go. Dick Beatty picked me up on pit road when we went up there at the race car, and it was back on its wheels, but you know, you could tell it had been messed up to the roof and everything. And the guy was standing up there, one of the guards. He said, the only thing you want to know if they break 200 miles an hour. Went in field care center, and Cale was in there, and they had his uniform down. I just checked him over. He looked up at me and said, "You didn't put controls in so I could fly." Because, you know, he was something else. But we come back to the racetrack, back in the garage area, and Bill France come to me the first one, and he said, "Waddell, if you'll fix that race car, you've already got the record, 200 miles an hour, over 200. He said, if you'll fix it, you can stay here with it, work 24 hours a day, and we'll put a guard in you with you. And you have to start Thursday, start the 125s, and run a couple of laps, and you can put them back in and work on it some more." So anyway, and boys, as you know, the kid wanted to hire a couple of them, 3 of them, when he was there with me. And they come over and said, "Happy hour, we're going to be at happy hour here in a couple of hours, so we're not going to fix that race car." But in the same time, Chevrolet got in touch with me and said, "Anything you need, you know, I'll have the parts flew down there to you." And then Harry Muir came to me and said, "My jet's sitting out here," and the guy from Calumet Farm said, "My jet's sitting out here, so whatever you might need." But anyway, you know, after them boys told me they wasn't going to work on it, that kind of put the squash on it. So anyway, I remember walking by Leonard Woods, or he come to me, and he's about to cry. He said, "Waddell," he said, "you're not going to fix that car?" He said, "You've been on the pole 4 years in a row with different drivers and different cars. This will make you 5th row, and you're not going to fix that race car?" I mean, he thought I was crazy. So anyway, the funny thing about it, Junior Johnson come up looking at it. They said a friend of his was with him and told me about it later. He said, "Anything goes that fast, ought to turn over."
Sounds like Junior.
Yeah, he was quite a character. Thought the world of Junior. But anyway, we ended up, you know, brought the Le Mans back down there, and we had it made a show car out of it. But anyway, come down there, and he ended up winning the race with it.
That was a previous year's car, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, it was a car we'd run before, so it's the oldest spare car we had. So anyway, we got it.
Is it true that it was a show car and it was sitting
turned it,
sitting
yeah,
at a Hardee's or something?
Yeah, we turned it into a show car. But
Yeah.
anyway, brought it down there, and we fixed it up, and we qualified on Monday, only 195 miles an hour, you know. But we didn't put no effort into it, really. We just wanted to get a time, and that's
Right.
it. So then, you know, he ended up winning the Daytona 500. Then the next year we come back with Cale and won it again. So we went 2 years in a row there.
So how fast did you go the second year?
We qualified over 200, but we'd already had the record.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of hard work, I can tell you that. It's a lot of hard work.
Well, I bet. Being engine builder, crew chief, now the aerodynamic part, man, that still just kind of got me. It's like, so what did you do exactly with the cowl? Because I've heard different theories about the cowl, like that it's not as the air goes over the hood, it's as it comes down the windshield. The windshield angle is what really, which one did you see?
It helps dam it.
Okay.
Up as air comes in. You know, but you know, the more slope, you know, it's going
Then
to
it goes
slide
off, right?
on
So
over.
if the windshield's
It's
laid
not-
back, it just goes over.
Yeah. So, you know, later on, you know, the windshield's in, they just laid over.
Right.
Look back to that. But anyway, there was a lot to that working on the cowl pressure. You know, to get the cowl to work right.
Mm-hmm.
The back of the hood, you can work on it, and then there at the windshield, work on that area. You know, you can knife edge things, you know, vortex, you can make it work with you or against you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a lot I've learned, you know, through the years.
All those
working
little
on it.
details.
And one thing that is funny, I'll never forget, Pearson always wanted to get a glass of Gatorade when he was driving the car. And he'd go down the backstretch, he would be at Daytona Talladega, and he'd throw it out the window. And that Gatorade would go back down the side of the race car, and you could see where it went on the spoiler and all. And I'd always look at that and see where the air was going,
Mm-hmm.
and what you could do to make things better. You want to decrease or increase, whichever you're looking for. if you're looking for drag or down pressure.
Right.
But anyway, there was a lot to learn that, and then how things got sandblasted at Daytona and Talladega and Darlington.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things that get sandblasted, you could see that, yeah, where it's at. But anyway, it was an interesting time.
Oh yeah, because obviously in that era, you had these factory parts. You didn't have a lot of aftermarket parts, so you had to take factory parts and then massage them and turn them into pieces that could do that. Versus what, like today, you could just go buy really good stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, it ain't like it was where we had to make all these pieces fit and work with them. You know, it was different from what these guys have got now. I mean, you know, it's a lot easier. I see some of their parts. It's amazing how nice they are.
Yeah.
Totally amazing.
Now, what time period? 'Cause I can't remember exactly. I know it was somewhere in the '80s. Is when everyone started angle milling the head, welding them up and rolling them over to roll the valve angles over and stuff on the Chevrolet heads. Was that like mid '80s that started happening?
Yeah, we started that back in the '80s. Yeah. There was a lot of things you do, and which was legal to do.
Yeah.
There wasn't nothing illegal about it. They weren't checking anything like that. You know, I always tried to stay within the rule book, and you had plenty of room to work and do things.
Yeah, Gary Williams is a good buddy of mine. He said, the carburetor stuff was obviously big deal.
Oh, it was bigger than you could really get into carburetors. You know, I went to see Bobby Allison yesterday, and he and I talked about some of that when he won the races, all those races in '81. What I was doing to the carburetor, which was legal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember we won Charlotte that year. We won both Charlotte races with Bobby Allison, and then we went to Rockingham, and Bill Gasway and Joe, they took him a carburetor. And so I went by and asked him, I said, y'all going to my carburetor? Nope. So I called John Homer. And the first thing John asked me, he said, what else, is that carburetor legal? I said, all the rules, it fits the rules. And he said, well, if they won't give you your carburetor back, you bring that car to the house. I said, okay. So I went over and asked him, nope. I said, okay. So I told Van Ford, we're going to get the weekend off. So we pulled it up on the back of the hauler. And they come over and wanted to know where I was going. I said, well, John Home told me to bring it home unless you give me that carburetor back. And he said, no, we can't give you a carburetor. I said, well, we're going to go to the shop. And he said, well, let's talk about it. I said, talking's over. So they went and bought the carburetor back. But anyway, that carburetor was legal. But to the rules.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I remember we didn't win the race. That hurt.
I bet, yeah.
That was unusual. We didn't win because Bobby had won about everything that year with that car. But there's a lot of interest. And then carburetors, like I say, and there's so much carburetors, to work on, which is legal, They had 830 carburetors, which was an 850 with a sleeve and it made it, you went from 1 3/4 to 1 11/16.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you had room to work with it from there.
Carburetors, manifolds, I know that all the plate stuff
yeah.
came later, all the inserts and everything, craziness.
Well, whenever they put them restrictor plates on them and all that just opened up cheater's paradise.
Yeah.
You always hear, hey, the race over who won and what they had, what was illegal about it, because it's always illegal. And I told Bill France, and he started it, I said, well, that's cheater's paradise. And it was.
See? Truth. This guy knows, right?
And I didn't fit that much.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious, like when a car can, lose an ignition box and fall almost a lap behind and then catch the pack by themselves and drive around them.
Oh, yeah.
That's not legal. There's no way.
And the funny thing about it, these guys all like to talk, and you hear about what they were doing.
Right.
Everybody wants to talk about it. So that's one thing I say. We stayed on top. I was not in for cheating, and didn't. So there was nothing in the rule books or anything that said, we done it wrong. We didn't.
All right.
We done it right. It was a lot of hard work.
So how many Daytona 500s did you win?
7.
How many championships?
3.
And here we go. Well, Waddell, I can't thank you enough for taking this time. This is awesome, man. We really, really appreciate you coming on Hidden Horsepower and sharing all these stories. This is, I could talk for hours, right? So this is cool. But I know you got things to do, and I can't thank Dennis and the guys at Promoter enough for letting us, borrow the shop for a little bit. Now that Chevy engine behind your head there is a little bit different than the Chevys you were building there back in the day.
It's quite a bit different.
It's kind of neat to see the technology evolve, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it escalates along.
Never stops.
No, it don't. Never.
That's why we do these episodes, so that we can give you the history and the cutting edge technology, and that's why we have Hidden Horsepower.
Waddell Wilson on Hidden Horsepower. Lake, that was tremendous. Great job. And you could feel the history.
Oh.
You could feel the history coming out of that guy. And they amaze me, like the icons and the legends, because they were doing it, I don't want to say with nothing, but with factory parts and without the machinery that we have today.
Right, I mean, like I said, they were blueprinting it. They got engines from Ford in a crate, and they went through back and blueprinted them, yet certain machinist skills, certain little tricks they had, guys like A.J. Foyt and Mario Andretti, I want that guy's engine.
Absolutely. Well, and that's it. There was a good engine back then.
Yeah.
For reasons that no one could explain, but there was a good engine. And I got to commend you. You did a great job with the interview.
But I did forget one thing.
Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but now that you brought it up,
Yeah,
you
I
forgot to ask the question that we ask at the end of every Hidden Horsepower episode, which is advice for the next generation. I bet he had some great stuff.
He probably would have had some really great advice, but I forgot to ask the question, so.
A good reason for a follow-up interview.
Yes, I agree.
Now that you've made the connection and he knows, you're, I won't say harmless, but you're a good guy, we can go back next time. But excellent work. And, I don't want to say that question is becoming redundant because everyone has their own answer, but they are very similar. As in, go push a broom, keep your ears open, don't talk so people don't know how dumb you are?
Right. I mean, really, if you go back to the very first part of the interview, he kind of gave you that. Like, hey, I came to work there, and it was 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. He wanted to go to the racetrack so he could get out of the shop. Because otherwise, if you didn't go to the racetrack, you were in the shop.
Right.
So it was an intense work ethic they had back then, and that was the key to laying that foundation for success.
And if you love something and you want to learn something, of course you want to be there, and you're learning by osmosis. Excellent stuff. All right, but this is a Hidden Horsepower episode. There are people out there who want piston rings. They want to know where to go, what to do, how to find them.
623-587-7400. That's the phone number. I mean, Keith, Kevin, August, Greg, all the guys are there. It's super busy right now. It's the first of the year, and people are getting ready though, because people have been watching videos and listening to the podcast, and they know, hey, I want to gas port this, I want to gapless that. They see the advantages that have come from the stuff we're doing, and people are putting it in, and they're calling us back up, say, hey, I need to reorder those because they work.
Super exciting. And remember, write us a review, click the bell, leave a comment in the comment section. All of those things help. If you're audio only, Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, you can take Hidden Horsepower on the road. We're going to have a big year with this show.
Absolutely. I said the PR episodes are coming up, and there's a ton more coming your way.
Hidden Horsepower, presented by Total Seal.